All right, cool. We're live to whoever can see this. This is a live version of the Outlier Insight Show. I'm Adam Rosenberg, and to my left or right, depending on where you're sitting, is my guy Mark Drumheller from Matthew Berry Fantasy Life, a bunch of different other things. Look, Mark's all things Philly, all things sports, and he is very good at a number of them. So we're going to go through stuff that we saw today on week 11 and talk a little bit about week 12, because week 12 starts on Thursday this week with a Thanksgiving slate. And then we get a Friday game too. So it's going to be great.
Yeah,
Mark,
good stuff. A lot of fun.
How was your day today?
Week, not bad. We did good today. I mean, today went well. Got the bad number on Arizona, so I pushed with the 5, but Chargers let me down. But we got some wins. We hit Gibbs. We hit the Raiders. We hit Cleveland. So overall, pretty good day.
So like what kind of, I mean, look, we got like 5 weeks left. What I didn't know it's such a cliche question, but like what really surprised you today, and what is a team that you're kind of looking at that you're like, yo, I'm very worried about this team?
Well, it's funny because I think that the main story of the NFL this year, outside of scoring being so down, right? I think it was 8 unders hit out of 12 games again, this week. And we saw the average closing total was up. So it was like up to, I believe, 42.8, across the board, which is higher than it's been in probably about a month. So I expect a lot of these lines to get bet down, going into week 12, with the unders hitting. But really, I think the story of the NFL outside of the scoring this year is the eroding of the middle class. Like, there's really no middle class now, like in the NFL. Like, you look at these, we're watching Denver and Minnesota now. Like, these teams have playoff aspirations. They can't score to save their lives. Like, they got Josh Dobbs out there, Russell Wilson, that offense, it looks terrible. They get turnovers. They can't score. So it's really, there's the top teams, in the AFC. You have Baltimore, you have Miami that look good, obviously Kansas City. And then there's a drop, injuries start settling in, obviously we know Cincinnati's not going to make a push. And in the NFC, Detroit today kind of, I think, showed a lot in coming back, winning a game that they probably should have lost, right? That's what good teams do. So I think you could probably put them up there with the Eagles and San Francisco as the teams in the NFC.
Yeah, I was looking at my future liability the other day, and I was looking at, because the top 4 are our guys, the Eagles, KC, the Niners, and the Ravens. And I was just trying to figure out, then after that, you get to those 10-1 and lower. And I'm like, and I was trying to make the case.
It's a tough case, man.
It's tough. I mean, look, I can make the case for the Lions, but you and I talked about this a couple weeks ago. And my problem that I have with the Lions is that the biggest game that I think that the Lions should have shown up for, they got waxed by the Ravens. Mm-hmm. And my problem with the Ravens is that I see the Ravens still do in the fourth quarter what Ravens of past have done in the fourth quarter. And so I don't know. I mean, look, I was one of, like, me, man, like I was a big Bengals fan too, until the bottom dropped out on that. And so I don't even know, but like, you look at certain things in the AFC North, it's odd because like the Steelers technically control their own destiny, because if they win out, they win that division. And but the Browns won today. And now Joe Flacco's coming back. I mean, it's kind of wild. Like, and it makes you realize with this whole like middle class of NFL, like you're going to probably still you might have an 8 and 9 team in there going on the 7. Like, it's just going to be kind of wild. And look, in the AFC, to me, it just comes down to the Eagles and maybe the Niners still, because I'm off on them, versus like who's the AFC. The AFC just still looks like a better conference, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, I think there's potential. Like, the beauty of all this is there's potential with these second-tier teams to really kind of step up. And we're pretty much a see it society, especially in the NFL. Like, we look at the Ravens, are like, well, they haven't done it with Lamar yet, so they're probably going to be the Ravens again, right? But this is their opportunity this year to take that jump and be an elite team, possibly go to the Super Bowl with Lamar Jackson. Same thing in the NFC with the Lions, right? Jared Goff, small hands, cold weather, right? He's going to probably have to go on the road. May not, but probably have to go on the road throughout the playoffs in the biggest game of his, maybe not his career, went to Super Bowl with the Rams, but biggest game, huge game in Lions franchise, history. If they end up playing in like the NFC title game, he's got to go to like San Fran or Philadelphia probably. And it's going to be an opportunity for him and the Lions is a team, Dan Campbell in that era, to really solidify themselves as elite contenders. So that part of it's exciting. I'm not sure if either team will get there, but I feel like in the NFL, we're kind of a see it society. Like, we want to see these teams make the jump in the playoffs before we believe them. But listen, we saw Joe Burrow do it a little while back.
Yeah.
Another team could definitely hop up in there.
Nope, absolutely. So with that, like I'm taking a look at some of the stuff, and like I don't know, I'm kind of gonna, no one wants to come here and just listen to us talk about every single game. So just kind of break it down. Is there anything with the Thanksgiving games that kind of stick out with you for, look, we get the traditional Packers Lions game, and it's funny because that Packers team, when I watched them play today against the Chargers, it kind of felt like the Spider-Man meme. Except with a way better quarterback on one side. I don't know and that Packers team has a lot of talent. They're just not able to put it together. But they're, them against the Lions, obviously we get our annual Commanders, Cowboys, and then the Niners. Have any of those games kind of stuck out to you?
Yeah, I think the Lions, like they come home, like Thanksgiving is going to be a big deal to them, right? This is every year. Dan Campbell, plays into it. So I like them in this spot. Now, I want to watch the line. I was hoping, listen, round 7.5. I was hoping the Green Bay win might pull in a little bit of Green Bay money because them coming into Detroit on a short week. Listen, they won that game today. We give them credit. Did they win it? Did the Chargers lose it? It's hard to tell. But I do know that
every week for the Chargers, though. I mean,
yeah, like Chargers ran the football whenever they wanted. Like Eckler averaged 6.4 yards per carry. They had 150 yards rushing. A lot of it was Herbert, which Goff obviously doesn't have wheels like that. But I think that Detroit's going to be able to kind of win this in the trenches and at home on Thanksgiving. I think if this thing slides under a touchdown, I'll definitely be looking at the Detroit side.
Yeah, I was looking at that, and I was kind of hoping that like it would get an initial ding to go down to 6.5 because there's quarterbacks that I think can kind of put it together on a short week, and Jordan Love already isn't one of them.
No.
But like the thing is that for the Lions, it's kind of like if it ain't broke. I mean, the Packers had like multiple guys who were out today. And it's the second straight week where they've either played someone who tried to they played an opponent who tried to or successfully gave the game away to them. The command is good. I will say, for a game that I did not want to have anything to do with, I had more going on with the Commanders Giants game today because of former Syracuse standout
Tommy DeVito.
Tommy DeVito, touchdown Tommy. I actually almost had a fun parlay going of Tommy DeVito 2 touchdowns, Sam Howell running touchdown, and then still have Washington win, but no. Cowboys are laying 11, which I get that that seems like I don't think the Commanders are great, but like that seems like a lot for a Cowboys team that really hasn't been able to throttle anybody who is really, worth anything.
Yeah, it's the Commanders are a tough team to read because they have players. I mean, when I look at that game, you figure, Parsons probably wrecked the game, right? Like the offensive line stinks for Washington. Hal takes a ton of sacks. Like, what are they really going to do? Are they going to move off Hal? I don't know, but it's Dallas typically can cover these big numbers at home. It's on the road. You worry about them. On the road, they can cover it against Carolina. But that's probably about the only team, right? So I know a lot of people in Carolina thinking they could kind of step up and get it done today, but they couldn't. So, I mean, to me, it's probably Cowboys or pass, but I'm not interested in. I want to enjoy my Thanksgiving. I don't want to lay 11 points, with Dallas in that spot.
Yeah, it's funny because now we're also going to start getting to the point in the season where you start getting a lot of these like 11 double-digit spreads that just don't look appealing. Like I didn't even realize that the Niners game was going on until the second half, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'll take a team total under over here. All right, so let me move to unless there's anything that stands out for you on the Black Friday game or whatever. I want to move to some of the Sunday games for next week.
Yeah, we call about Sunday. Yeah, let's do that.
All right, cool. So obviously like I'm stuck here living in Boston. Love my wife for making me move here, but the Pats and the Giants. This is kind of like toilet bowl 2. What are you thinking on this game? It's got, what we're seeing on DK is Pats as a road 3.5 point favorite going to the Meadowlands. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I think it was about 5.5 on the look ahead, and now you're seeing Giants money come in. Tommy DeVito, listen, they all love him now, right? A couple touchdowns makes forget about Daniel Jones. We don't need Caleb Williams now. We got Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, really.
Everyone's excited. But I do think there's a little bit of credence as far as like the offense is concerned. Now, from a side perspective, I'm not laying points with New England, and I don't know if I want to bet the Giants here. But I think the total was interesting. Now, last I saw, I want to say it was 36,
34
somewhere around there.
34 now. 34.
Yeah, 34. So
points.
This is an over.
And
I know it sounds
like
crazy,
Iowa football.
I think this is an over because you look at these two teams, they can't cover anybody. So, New England, they're both bottom 6 coverage grade on PFF. New England's 29th, Giants are 27th. You look at dropback EPA, New England's 28th, Giants are 24th, right? So neither teams can cover anybody. So this is the game where like these offenses, these receivers who, nobody else in the league wants on their team, they can get some separation, right? They can get some separation. They can get some things going. 34.5 is just too low. I want to say the Giants went over the last 2 games. Like this week wasn't the only one. I think it was the last 2. Obviously a lot of has that because of their defense, but that's what you're getting here. Like this isn't just 2 bad offenses. This is 2 bad defenses. And I think the offenses are going to have success here. You got New England coming off the bye, so they have some time to kind of come up with a new game plan, right? They just benched Mac Jones. So it sounds crazy, but I think it's too low. I would play the over here at 34.5.
Yeah, I'm just taking a look right now, and actually, you wouldn't believe it because they're so bad, but New England's been 7-3 to the over in their last 10, partially because they're giving up points,
They're
and
giving up a
the
ton of points.
Giants
The
6-4.
defense
Yeah,
stinks.
I completely agree. It looked like, I mean, look, I watched Tommy DeVito play in college, so like it's I do not think that he is probably. I think that he might become somebody's really good backup, but it's very clear also that they worked with him during the week and that he started moving some things around, doing better. I don't even think we know who's starting for the Pats this week. I don't really know if it's going to matter because their offense is still one dimensional anyway. They're going to try to just run the ball a billion times. But look, I would have to agree with you that 34 on a team that we know can't stop anybody. To the Giants end, you named a whole bunch of things, but also Giants are, I believe, 31st in opponent explosive pass rate. It is just you can guarantee someone's going to get a longest reception. And
it's 2 offenses with really nothing to lose at this point, right? Like the Patriots are probably going to have a new quarterback in there, whether it's Zappy or if it's Jones, there's going to be new wrinkles, right? They're going to try and get it going. And DeVito, like, hey, you know what? 3 touchdowns. They're going to be like, okay, let's continue the momentum here. And listen, I don't think DeVito is any good. He's not a starter in this league, but I think he's shown today against bad defenses, he can put up some points. He can get the job done. He can at least move the chains. And I think that's what he's going to face here. Like, this isn't the, dynasty Patriots defense. Everyone's scoring points on these guys.
Well, he looked prepared. Like that's the thing that we talk about with a lot of teams. He absolutely looked prepared. All right. So, the other one I wanted to hit, Tampa Bay and the Colts. This is pretty interesting because my favorite bet that I've had with the Bucks, has been honestly just their inability to score points, and Rachaad White rushing unders, which are a wagon. They just continue to put that number up at 45, and the guy is never. He's a if you're playing fantasy, he's a PPR machine because he's like Alvin Kamara. He's gonna get 10 catches or something like that. But once again, easy cash on under 45.5 rush yards. I'm sure they're gonna put it at 43. Even though this Colts has a bad rush defense, what are you thinking on this game? Gardner Minshew off a bye. I don't know if there's any sort of trend about it, but this Colts team's got spunk, man.
Well, they do, and both teams have been cashing for bettors all year. I want to say Indy's 7-3 against the spread, and Tampa's 7-2-1. But you look at these 2 teams. I mean, Tampa's been covered. I think the last time Tampa didn't cover was like week 6 against Detroit. I think they had a push in there, but like they're a team that brings home the money every week. They closed at 13.5 today.
They covered today. They covered today, man. They covered at 13.5.
They got it done today.
They've covered 5 straight. They've covered 5 straight. Let's see, 6 of their last 8. Yeah, dude, they are absolutely doing it.
I like them. Like at this short number, I like them. I think they're the better team than Indy on paper. You look at these 2 teams. I think Tampa's the more talented team. You look at offensive EPA per play. Tampa 15th, Indy 23rd. Tampa's defense doesn't look as good on paper, like on the metrics, but you also the strength of schedule. You look at who these 2 teams have played. Indy covered the last 2 weeks, sure, against Carolina, who might be the worst team we've ever seen in the history of the NFL. And then New England, who we just talked about, right? So they covered against those 2 teams. Okay, you can have that. Tampa's out there playing Buffalo. They're playing Houston. CJ Stroud's an animal going nuclear every week. They covered against San Francisco. So when you look at strength of schedule, Indy's had the 8th easiest strength of schedule so far. Tampa Bay's had the 12th hardest, right? So it's not, gangbusters, but there is a big gap between, who these teams have played. So I like Tampa here. Like anything under a field goal, I think Tampa can go on the road here and get the job done.
Well, and I made the joke about like Rashad White rushing unders, but actually this is, if there's going to be a week where he's going to hit over that, this would be it. Indy is absolutely a run funnel that you want to go against. Especially if you're starting those players. They lead the league they're tied with Carolina for the most rushing touchdowns that they've given up, 23rd in rushing DVOA, 13th in passing DVOA. By contrast, Tampa is 14th in passing DVOA defense, and they are looks like they're 7th in rushing. So it'll be they're kind of still doing it. And also I think that they're still probably battling for that 7th wild card. I mean, the Colts there's a whole mix of AFC teams that are 5-5, and the Colts are right in it with everybody.
Well, we know both South divisions are going to be live until the very end. I mean, Jacksonville will probably pull away, but they'll be, they'll all be competitive. Like that NFC South, especially, no one's going to pull away in that division. That'll be going down to the end.
Yeah. All right. So we went on the Detroit Green Bay, did that. So it's funny, we're going to talk about one more look ahead, and then we're actually going to talk about tomorrow because they include the same team. Kansas City Chiefs and the Las Vegas Raiders. They got the first game, they got that bounce back, the bouncing dead cat. I don't know what the metaphor is, but Pierce took over. Look, they looked a lot better. I don't know about AOC, but like that they looked a lot better than they had under Jimmy. This line is already, like, without going into tomorrow, is -10. Is the Chiefs laying 10 on the road in Vegas? What are you thinking about this one?
Yeah, I think you got to hop on the Raiders now. Just because of, if you look at Kansas City, and again, it's hard for us to like reprogram what this Kansas City team is like in our brain. Like they're a defensive team. Like they're not an offensive team, even though they have Patrick Mahomes.
Third in passing DVOA defense. They've been good. They've been real good.
Secondary solid. So you look at them, they really haven't won by margin a lot this year. They had the blowout against the Bears. The Bears were a complete mess early in the season. They beat the Chargers by 14. We know the Chargers are a lot worse than we think. But, you just look at their last 4 games have ended, have landed on 35, 33, 48 was the Chargers game, 27, 2 games with Denver rolled up in there. And the Raiders play a very similar style to Denver. So I think this total is way too high. What is it, right around 45? Like I like Vegas here, and I like the under. I think the total's too high. It's mid 40s. It shouldn't be. Vegas is 9-2 to the under this year. Kansas City, I believe, is 7-2 going into tomorrow night. So I just think that this is a game where, again, you're going to have the Raiders kind of drag their opponent into the mud, much like we saw them do with Miami today. Eat up some clock, make it a low-scoring game, limit possessions, and these teams always kind of play each other tough. It's a divisional game, so I like the under, and I think if you can get Vegas with the 10, probably take it. If it gets under 10, then I probably wouldn't touch it, but I really like the under in this one.
Yeah, it's 10 at DK. It's definitely already moved to 9.5 at some books. This Raiders team, it's funny because people think they stink, but like they're actually the lowest. In the league, they are the lowest opponents ADOT nerd stat, average depth of target. Because look, you and I've talked about this. They like to keep everybody in front of them, which someone like a Travis Kelce or somebody like that, who's going to be like a receptions target, they're going to try to limit that by saying, look, fine, you can have 12 catches. We're just going to try to block you from up here and just bring in.
Yeah, and they can see the run, and that's the other thing too is like, can Kansas City be disciplined enough to continue to run at them? Are they going to continue to do that? Because they can see the run and they just don't want to let up the explosive plays because the secondary needs help. Like they don't have the talent back there. So schematically, they have to kind of hide that. But I think that this is just another. I think Kansas City is an under team. You look at it, like you talked about the secondary. Like this defense is physical. And then you add in the element. We'll talk about tomorrow night's game in a little bit. But you add in the element. They're coming off this huge Super Bowl rematch game against one of the most physical teams in the NFL. Like we know the Eagles, they have flaws, but in the trenches, they're tough. Like it's going to be a physical game. So now they have to get up after that. They have to go play the Raiders. 5-5 team. Yeah, I just think this one's got under written all over it, man. Vegas is under, and KC's pretty much been the same.
Especially in the first half. I don't have the stat right in front of me, but they've been Raiders have been lights out first half unders. I've been actually messing around with some alts with that too. So tomorrow we've got a big game for us. One that even my wife is excited about. I got a new Jalen Hurts jersey for it. We got a Super Bowl rematch between our guys, the Eagles, and the Chiefs. What are you kind of thinking going into this game? I got a couple prop angles that I've liked, so don't be alarmed as I start to share screen and look through some of the outlier stuff, but tell me what you're thinking on the game tomorrow.
Yeah, I think it's an under. I think that's what the Chiefs do. You look at this. Yeah, I think it's going to be a game. When you look at the Eagles on the road and how they've played, the last game they played Washington, and we saw what Washington's defense is today, right? So that game had 69 total points, 38-31, right? But their 4 previous road games all fell under 46. I feel like the Eagles play a little bit more run heavy, a little bit more, conservative when they're on the road. The last 4 games have been under 46. The last 3 have been 37 or under. So this game, again, this is another total in the mid 40s. I played under 45.5. I think that's solid. I have the Eagles on to close out a teaser leg at +9, which I know, listen, it's not Wong, it's not plus EV, that's fine. But
whatever.
I had them with Detroit. Detroit came
watch
back.
Watch out, man. Twitter's gonna come after you on that.
Yeah.
How it works, right?
So so I think the 9's solid, and I think the under's solid. As far as the game, picking a side, if it goes over the 3, I would play the Eagles, but it's probably going to be a pretty close competitive game. I think this game is a big deal for both teams because it's not as much about the Super Bowl rematch as it's about there's only one bye. So you got to win games, man. You don't nobody wants, to play an extra game in the playoffs. I listen, I think both these teams understand the importance of getting that bye, and more important, getting home field throughout the playoffs. These are 2 teams that were in the Super Bowl last year. They have Super Bowl aspirations to get back there again. They know they want that conference championship at their home in front of their home crowd. They know how important that is, both teams. So I think both teams it's really important. I think you're going to see a letdown next week for Kansas City, regardless of the outcome.
Yeah, right here, you guys can see on screen 5, 5 straight unders, no matter of what the line was for Kansas City, and on the Eagles side, they're off of 2 overs, which were obviously that Dallas game that got crazy, and their divisional games have been flying over, but again, under team as well. With how things went for the Eagles last year when Jalen Hurts got hurt towards the end of the year, this is a very critical game because if they win this game, they can start planning around what happens within weeks 15, 16, 17 on if they can rest guys. Jalen Hurts, obviously, they're saying it's not 100%. I don't know. I mean, I like we mentioned it, KC's got a really good secondary. They're the opposite on the run. It's something that Eagles fans have been screaming for coaches since Andy Reid was there to do more of. And that is, I think after with a 2-week bye, Sirianni is going to get them to do that. So, things that I'm kind of looking at tomorrow are the Eagles to kind of to pound that rock. I know Hurts isn't 100%, but I'm expecting big Hurts leg game versus big Hurts arm game. And then there's a couple things that I've kind of looked at on the prop side. I don't know if there's things that you've been looking at this week. There's just some stuff in general for them, just taking advantage.
Yeah, I think on the Eagles side, I mean, listen, obviously Kelsey is going to have a big game. He always does against the Eagles. Yeah. I don't think they're going to come up with some kind of grand scheme to cover this guy. He's impossible to cover. So, you can look at Kelsey. But on the Eagles side, I think what is interesting is when you look at the Chiefs defense, it's almost the opposite of the Raiders. And what we talked about is they're very good at covering that middle part of the field and, that intermediate range. They do let up some explosive plays, and they almost kind of force teams to take those shots because a lot of teams don't have the, athletes to be able to do that, to get those explosive plays. I think the Eagles do. So, I mean, I would look at Devonta Smith. I would look at A.J. Brown, whether it's touchdown, longest reception, how you want to attack it. But I do think it's going to be the Eagles are going to have to score that way. I don't think the intermediate game is going to be there for them. I think they're going to have to run the ball, take deep shots, and they're going to have to connect on those deep shots if they're going to want to, end up winning the game. So I think that's really what it's going to come down to, whether you want to play that is Hurts touchdown passes. I mean, I don't know if they get in the red zone if they're going to be throwing the ball too much.
Yeah.
But I would look at it that way and try and, put together, a same game parlay or some props that kind of like feed off of that opportunity for explosive passes for the Eagles.
Yeah. And I like for me, with the Eagles, I'm just constantly thinking, what's the way that the sky is going to be falling? I mean, look, the last time right before the bye, Dallas Goedert got hurt. Who was on the field though for the final 6 snaps as a tight end was Albert O. The long maligned Albert O, former Denver Bronco, who I don't know. I mean, how Sirianni likes to use these guys. That guy is absolutely going to be an anytime touchdown target. I don't know about anything else. But what's funny is that what you're seeing now immediately is that there is value on under Kelsey receptions, but also value on over receiving, which is that wonderful if you do a same game correlation that also can give you some extra value. The thing that there's 2 things that I key in on with this is that one thing I've noticed is that the Eagles actually have given up the first sack in 6 straight games. So I'm going to be looking to take Chiefs to do first sack overall, just because, we've seen this thing. I think the fact that Cam Jurgens is going to be back for the Eagles is going to be really great for the run game in general. So I'm looking towards, some of the, depending on who they're going to address, I'm assuming they're going to address Boston Scott and probably Swift. I'm looking at some of those guys for maybe some touchdown props. But the big thing that the Eagles have consistently done, and I want to be proven wrong on this, is that they give up big explosive plays. They're actually down there with the Giants in terms of passing. So the guy that I have been targeting, and I mentioned it to you, earlier this weekend, but and I know, look, there's value on fading him, but I'm looking at Mr. Marquez Valdez-Scantling as probably a longest. I believe it was 12 and a half or 13 and a half. What is it? It's 13 and a half right now, which you can get in. Obviously, that's just one catch, but the Eagles giving this up in every single game. It's something that I'm looking at because this is a guy who's gotten 12 targets over the last 3 weeks. And this is exactly the type of guy that kind of burns the Eagles just out of nowhere. It's usually that second or third receiver that they leave. I feel like they're going to have a game plan for Kelsey. Look, this isn't a Chiefs team that has the same wide receivers that they've had in the past. I think Rashee Rice is fantastic, but I'm not as concerned about him as I am about like Travis Kelce. So prop wise, that's something that I'm looking at. And then I'm probably going to then look at, it's hard to not, love, AJ Brown getting his, because the dude's just a dog. And just like, I'm waiting for the week where that falls apart. And it's just like, it's just not.
It might not come. Yeah, it might not come. So it's probably, I would play some Brown in this matchup for sure.
Yeah. So look, that's all that I had for us on this. People don't need to hear us just wax about our Eagles nonstop. But look, Mark, I'm glad that you took time on Sunday to come by and help us out. Where can folks find you?
Absolutely. So you can follow me at X_Drumheller, doing work for Matthew Berry Fantasy Life, their betting life channel. Be on there doing live primetime streams on Monday. This Thursday, not sure we're doing. I don't think we're doing it on Thursday, but tomorrow night we'll definitely be on there. Hop in there, 6:30 to 7:15. We'll be in there chopping up the Monday night game and doing BetMGM tonight for BetQL on Friday night from 7 to 11. So come check us out there as well.
Nice. And Mark doesn't sell, because we talked about NFL a lot, but like there are very few people that know college as well as Mark. And
I love me some college.
Dude, he's a good follow. He's a good dude. I mean, if you've been following Liberty, and I can't believe they didn't do it, by the way, against
they let me down. Yeah,
they absolutely
that was a goofy game. I mean, the end of, because they had the backup in there and they were like throwing the ball instead of running it. Like if they just ran it, they would have covered. But
that was weird, Liberty ATS has been one of the gifts of this college season, and yeah, absolutely. All right, so for Mark, Adam Rosenberg, I'll definitely be on the channel a few times this week. We're going to drop some things, probably some plays around Thursday and on that Friday game. Thanks for coming by, and good luck with all your bets this week.